Dogwoods are a really popular tree in the landscape. They flower profusely in the springtime, and they look generally pretty nice all the rest of the year as well. One of the problems that they've run into in recent years is a disease we call anthracnose. There's a fungus called discula that was thought to be introduced to the East Coast in the late 1970s, and it's beginning to cause it has caused major problems on the dogwoods throughout their native range, all the way from southern Maine into northern Alabama. The dogwood anthracnose starts out as a leaf spot disease, and then it will also cause a spotting on the flowers of the tree. And then the fungus will spread from the leaves and the flowers into the twigs. And typically what will then happen is it will kill the small twigs and then move into larger branches on the dogwood. That's where the fungus overwinters. Primarily it overwinters on the dead twigs and branches. As the disease continues, it will move into larger branches. The bark on the tree will be killed, and eventually the lower branches are killed. And here you can see on this native dogwood, many of the lower branches that had been killed in previous years have been pruned off. Now, the native dogwood is really susceptible. And as I mentioned, this disease has been going since the late 1970s, and many trees in the landscape and in the forest have died. It's thought right now that discula, the anthracnose-causing fungus, was introduced into the area on Coosa dogwoods, which are much less susceptible. Coosa dogwoods, even under ideal conditions, only show the leaf spotting, and they don't show the branch dieback. Now, another thing that occurs, another typical symptom during this dieback of the native dogwood, is that water sprouts form. And that's the last gasp effort of the tree to survive. And here you can see many water sprouts have developed. These are very susceptible to the anthracnose disease. And here you can see one right here on the tree that has been killed by the anthracnose. Now, not only on the ends of the branches do you find the fungus, but you also find the fungus on these little twigs. And if we break a twig off, we'll be able to see the fungal fruiting structures on that twig. It's usually a roughened area where the bark is normally nice and smooth. You'll find that the fungus has roughened the area, and fungal fruiting structures are forming on that roughened bark. And then the following spring, those spores formed in these fruiting structures on the dead twigs will move to the expanding leaves. And that's when infection primarily occurs, is as the leaves are expanding. So to control this particular disease, one of the best things to do is try to remove the fungus from the tree, and that's done by pruning out these dead twigs and branches. Then you would want to institute a spray program to control the fungus. And you would begin your first spray about the time that the leaves are reaching a stage where they look like little lobster claws. As they're expanding and come out, they form just a little lobster claw shape. Your first spray should go on then, and then you'd have to repeat your sprays at about 10-day intervals until the weather dries out and the leaves are fully expanded. Once they're fully expanded and the weather is relatively dry, then we don't see any more infections. Now, if a tree like the native dogwood is killed, it doesn't make a lot of sense to put in another native dogwood, because the disease will just continue. It'll move in from other trees and cause infections. So what we're currently recommending is, instead of replacing the native dogwoods with another native dogwood, you'd probably be better off to use the Coosa dogwood. It flowers a little bit later than the native dogwood, but it's much less susceptible to the anthracnose. And the owner of the property will be much happier having a good, healthy tree.